This story feels like something straight out of a crazy movie, almost too wild to be real. I was married for over 30 years and thought I had a happy life. I have 3 kids I love, and I owned a small convenience store with a gas station. We weren't rich, but we got by just fine. A few years ago, my 28-year-old son Jake ended up in the hospital with a serious kidney issue. He's married with 2 kids, and my wife Laura, who I called Lori, and I were terrified. The doctors warned us that Jake might need a transplant if things didn't improve soon. They suggested we ask family members to get tested as potential donors. Without telling Lori, I decided to get tested myself. When the results came back, I wasn't a match, which shocked me. I asked the doctor why, given that Jake was my son. The doctor looked uncomfortable and asked me to step into his office. "Mr. Harrison, the test shows you're not Jake's biological father. We're double-checking to be sure," he said. I was floored. How could I possibly tell Lori? I started questioning everything. My 2 daughters, Emily and Sarah, were they mine? A couple of days later, the doctors gave us some relief. Jake's kidneys were improving, and he wouldn't need a transplant after all. Everyone was overjoyed, but I hadn't told Lori the real bombshell. The next day, I asked Lori, Emily, and Sarah to give DNA samples, saying it would help in case of future medical issues. Lori seemed nervous but went along with it, and the girls did too. I even collected samples from Emily's family. Soon after, the hospital confirmed my worst fear. Jake wasn't biologically mine. I asked them to test the girls too. "Mr. Harrison," they asked, "are any of them your family?" "They're all my family," I replied, "but I need to know if Emily and Sarah are my biological children." A few days later, Jake came home from the hospital. He recovered quickly, and soon, life seemed to be returning to normal for everyone but me. I couldn't stop obsessing about the results. I had to know the truth. Lori noticed my odd behavior and asked me what was wrong almost every night. I told her I was just thinking about our kids, which wasn't entirely a lie. Then, one evening, I came home and found Lori crying at the kitchen table with hospital papers in front of her. "When did you do this?" "Why?" she asked, clearly upset. "I got tested to see if I could donate a kidney to Jake. The doctor said I'm not his biological father." "So, I had the girls tested too," I explained. Lori broke down sobbing. "Emily isn't yours, but Sarah is," she confessed. "I'm so sorry, Tom. What happens now?" I was numb. 30 years of marriage, and now I find out 2 of my kids weren't mine. "We need to talk," I said. "Maybe we'll stay together, or maybe we won't." "Tom, that was over 28 years ago. Can't we just move on and leave it in the past?" "No, we can't. You had an affair. I need to know who I've been raising. Jake and Emily are siblings, so this wasn't just a one-time thing." "Who was it with?" "It was Jack," she admitted. "It was a mistake, but it's over." "Jack? Our best friend who died 25 years ago? Did Emma know? Was she in on this too?" "Please, Tom, let's not dig this up. I love you. This is ancient history. Can't we move on?" "Move on?" I snapped. "We got married, and within a year, you started sleeping with Jack. I raised his child. If he hadn't died, you'd probably still be with him." She cried harder, but I wasn't letting it go. "I always loved him, but he chose Emma," she admitted. "I loved you too, just not the same way. When Jack married her, I felt lost. Then you asked me to marry you, and I said yes, partly out of spite, I guess. But after we got married, Jack and I started an affair. You were gone a lot, and Jack would come by. It just happened. He stopped coming around after I got pregnant with Jake. He asked if the baby was his, and I said I wasn't sure but wouldn't tell you unless he left Emma. He laughed and said you could raise his baby. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You expect me to buy that it just happened? And what about Emily? Did the same thing just happen again?" I told him not to come by unless you or Emma were there, but one day he forced himself on me. He said if I didn't, he'd tell you about Jake. I didn't know what to do. After Emily was born, Jack died in that car accident, and I was relieved, I guess. I didn't have to deal with him anymore. I could focus on us. Tom, I really grew to love you more and more. Didn't we have a good life together? Sure, our marriage was fine, I said coldly, but now I see it was all based on lies. You cheated on me, and built this life while loving someone else. I can't just forget that. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of it all. I'm going to see a lawyer and file for divorce. Tom, you can't, she cried. What about the kids? What will you tell them? You can tell them, I said, anger bubbling up. And just so you know, I don't believe for a second that Jack forced you. If he hadn't died, you'd still be with him. You have a week to tell me the full story. After that, I'll tell the kids the truth. I assume Jake and Emily don't know I'm not their father. No, they don't. No one knows but us, she whispered. I am their father, I said firmly. I raised them, and that won't change. But we're done, Lori. I'll stay here until the divorce is finalized, unless you've got someone else on the side. That's not fair, Tom, she said through tears. No, what's unfair is I've been living with someone I don't even know for 30 years. I'm moving into the guest room. She wept as I gathered my things and moved out of our bedroom. 2 days later, I got a call from the store. Lori had been in a car accident. She was speeding, missed a turn, and crashed. She died on impact. The sheriff looked into whether there were any issues, but I reported none, classifying it as an accident pending the autopsy. Telling my kids about their mother's death was brutal, and it only added to my doubts about whether it was truly an accident or something darker. Days later, the autopsy confirmed it was indeed an accident. At her funeral, despite everything, I found myself mourning deeply. 30 years together leaves a mark, and I was wrestling with emotions I hadn't fully sorted out. I chose to keep her affair a secret, resisting the urge to talk to a lawyer. The day after the funeral, I asked my daughters and daughter-in-law to divide Lori's belongings, keeping just a few family photos for myself. But I couldn't shake the endless what-ifs. I wondered if things could have turned out differently, or if fate had intervened in some twisted way. This all happened 2 years ago, just before the holidays. Since then, I found myself alone. My son and oldest daughter live about 100 miles away, and I told them I'd visit for a couple of days. Sarah, my youngest, was in her final year of college and planning a trip to England with friends for the holidays. She worried about me being alone, but I assured her I'd been managing just fine. I spent most of my time at the service station, never really alone. One day, while watching TV, I saw one of those ads asking for $24 a month to help kids in third world countries. It got me thinking about where the money really goes. The next day, I asked Pastor Dave at our local church if they had any campaigns to help families nearby. He said they did and asked if I had a specific family in mind. No, I replied, but give me the name of a family I can help. Dave told me about a young widow with 3 kids. Her husband had been killed, and she'd moved here for a fresh start. Thanks, Dave. I'll come by later to get the details. I wasn't a regular churchgoer, but I wanted to do something that mattered. I took the name from the church's giving tree, Nina Robinson. I recognized her name from Frank's Diner, where I often ate. I decided to stop by and talk to her. At Frank's, I saw Nina, a woman in her early 30s with shoulder-length dark hair, neither thin nor heavy, just pleasant-looking. She smiled and said she'd be right over. What can I do for you? She asked. Just a cup of coffee and some conversation, if you don't mind, I said. Coffee, sure. Conversation? I'm not so sure, she replied with a laugh. I fumbled a bit, trying to explain myself. I'm not good at talking to women, and this isn't me hitting on you. I picked your name from the church's tree and wanted to help out for the holidays. She looked puzzled. I'm not sure what you mean by holiday friend, but I'll get your coffee. After speaking with Frank, she returned. Okay, Frank says you're fine. I just get hit on a lot, and I don't need that. So what's this about being a holiday friend? The church didn't mention anything about this. This is just something I decided on, I said. I saw that ad on TV about donating to kids in other countries, and it got me thinking. I want to help a family locally for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm not rich, but I can help a little, and I chose your family. Her eyes welled up with tears. Are you serious? I've been so worried about how I'll take care of my kids this year. My husband, well, you know. I know, Nina. He was murdered. Please, let me help. If I'm overstepping, just say so, and I'll back off. Why are you doing this? She asked, confused. Don't you have your own family to help? My wife died 2 years ago in a car accident, I said. My holidays have been lonely, and I thought I could make someone else's better. My kids are grown and doing fine. So what do you say? Can we be holiday friends? You have a kind face, Tom. For my kids' sake, I'll say yes. But no tricks. We've been through a lot. No tricks, I promise. Let's start by figuring out what you need. The next day, I asked her if I could take her to dinner, but she said she needed to be home with her kids. Instead, she invited me over for pizza. Pepperoni and cheese, okay? I asked. That's perfect, but bring two. My 8-year-old can eat half of one by himself. She laughed. When I arrived at her apartment, it was clear she lived in one of those housing projects that weren't exactly the best environment. There was always some trouble, whether drugs or other issues. Now, I wanted to help her even more. Her son, an adorable 8-year-old, opened the door. You the pizza guy? He asked, grinning. Yeah, I replied. Your mom invited me over. Mom said her friend was bringing pizza today, he exclaimed. We don't get pizza from the store very often. His 2 younger siblings, a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old girl, came running over, shouting, Pizza, pizza. Nina came in from another room, looking a bit flustered but smiling. Kids, where are your manners? Sorry, Mom, her oldest said. We just don't get visitors much. Can we have pizza now? Kids, this is Tom, a friend of mine. You can call him Uncle Tom or Mr. Tom. Just call me Tom, I interrupted. What's your name, buddy? I'm Ethan, and I'm 8, the boy replied proudly. That's my brother, Noah, and my little sister, Lily. We all sat down to eat pizza together. Their furniture was old, and the TV barely worked, but the kids were full of energy and excitement. While they watched cartoons, I quietly asked Nina what help she really needed. Oh my God, I wasn't ready for this, Nina confessed. My kids and I are managing, but they want what other kids have, and I can't always provide. You've seen our TV, it's barely watchable. We get clothes secondhand, and while the kids are great, I can't buy them things like bikes because they might get stolen. Any help would mean a lot. Okay, I'll see what I can do, I told her. How about I take Ethan to the movies on Saturday? There's a new Harry Potter film out. Ethan lit up. Wow, Mom, can we go? We'll see if you behave this week, Nina replied. I added, Nina, you're coming too. We could grab McDonald's after. Lily chimed in. I like McDonald's. They have Happy Meals. All right, Lily. Be good, and we'll make it happen. The kids were thrilled, and I could see Nina was smiling too. It felt good to make them happy. From then on, we spent weekends together, going to fun places. I even started eating lunch at Frank's more often, always sitting in Nina's section, leaving her generous tips. Tom, you don't need to leave big tips. Just make my kids happy, she said, feeling a bit embarrassed. So, you don't need the money? I teased. That's not fair, she laughed. I can use the money, but it makes me feel awkward, like I owe you. Can I at least make you Thanksgiving dinner or something? I need to do something for you. Nina, I said, I do this because it makes me happy. Helping people who are trying to help themselves is a good feeling. You don't owe me anything. Seeing your kids' faces is all the thanks I need. Your smile is just a bonus. She looked a little flustered and turned away. When Sarah came home one weekend, she asked what was new. I told her about Nina and how I was helping her family. Dad, are you sure this is a good idea? Sarah asked. You don't really know her. Sweetheart, seeing those kids' faces gives me a new sense of purpose. I want you to meet Nina and tell me what you think. I don't know, Dad, Sarah said hesitantly. That's a rough neighborhood for a single mom. Exactly, I said. That's why I want to help. You've grown up, and you don't need me as much anymore. I need to help someone who does. Sarah eventually agreed to meet them. That Saturday, I invited Nina and the kids over. When they pulled up in a beat-up car, Sarah couldn't resist a sarcastic remark. Nice car, Dad. I asked, what would you say if she drove up in a brand-new car? Good point, she smiled. Ethan and Noah ran up to me excitedly, amazed at the size of my house. Uncle Tom, this place is huge, they exclaimed. I introduced them to Sarah as Nina got Lily out of the car. Lily was shy but warmed up quickly. Hey, this is my daughter Sarah. I told them. She used to boss me around just like you do with your brothers, Lily. Nina and Sarah greeted each other with friendly smiles, though I could tell they were sizing each other up. I know this is new for all of us, Nina said, but let's enjoy the day, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Your father is one of the kindest people I've met. As the kids explored the house, Nina joined Sarah and me in the kitchen. Men think grilling is a full meal, but we know better, right? Nina joked. Sarah laughed, already warming to her. I like her, Dad, she whispered. The kids had a blast, and we ended the day with a movie. Lily insisted on watching The Little Mermaid, making it clear the boys could join only if they were quiet, playing her big sister role like a pro. After that, Thanksgiving became a big event at my house. Nina and Sarah planned to cook, and I'd keep the kids entertained. Sarah reached out to Jake and Emily, inviting them to join us and bring swimsuits for the hot tub. Initially hesitant, they eventually agreed, curious about my involvement with Nina's family through the church initiative. As the weeks passed, Nina and Sarah worked seamlessly together. Sarah started coming home every weekend, and I made a habit of visiting Nina's restaurant for lunch. Often, I dropped by her apartment to visit the kids, bringing little treats and spending time with them. It was heartwarming to see them happy, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a deep sense of connection again. Sarah, always observant, pulled me aside one day. Dad, Nina is really nice, and I get why you want to help, but I think she might actually care about you. Maybe more than you think. She didn't say that, did she? No, Sarah replied. She didn't have to. Women can sense these things. And honestly, I think you've fallen for her too. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Was I falling for Nina? Or was it just the comfort of helping someone in need? Either way, I knew one thing for sure. This was the happiest I'd been since Lori died. Nina often teased me about spoiling the kids. While I occasionally felt uneasy seeing her interact with customers, especially the men who flirted with her, I knew I had no right to be jealous. Update. On Thanksgiving morning, Nina and her kids arrived early, Nina looking lovely in a simple outfit. She and Sarah quickly got busy in the kitchen. Sarah mentioned she'd invited her boyfriend, Ryan, a paramedic still in college, who would be joining us before their trip to England for a hospital project. Jake, his wife Holly, and their kids arrived shortly after, and the first thing the grandkids asked about was the hot tub. I introduced them to Nina's children, and they all hit it off immediately. Sarah introduced Nina to Jake and Holly as a good friend, which pleased me. Jake seemed curious, and Holly offered to help in the kitchen. Emily and Adam arrived next with their kids, who immediately joined the others downstairs to play. While the women cooked, the men tried to stay out of the way. Jake and Adam were curious about Nina, and I gave them a brief explanation of her situation. She looks good, Dad. Is she around my age? Jake asked. She's 31, I replied. She's been through a lot and deserves some help. Adam chimed in. Aren't you afraid she might fall in love with you? Or you with her? I'm a widower. She's a widow. If something happens, it happens, I said. But I haven't even tried to kiss her. Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to pry, Jake apologized. I know it's none of my business. You must miss Mom. This has nothing to do with your mother. I'm still alive, and if I'm attracted to someone, that's my business, I replied, eager to change the subject. Later, we went downstairs to check on the kids, who were having a blast. Lily kept coming up to talk to me, which seemed to bother Jake, but Adam found her sweet. Sarah brought Ryan down to meet everyone, and after some introductions, he joined our conversation. I met Nina. She's nice, Ryan said. Sarah told me about her husband. I nodded, introducing Ryan to Nina's kids. Good kids. It's great you're helping them, Mr. Harrison, Ryan added. Thanks, Ryan. So, how are things with you and Sarah? Jake asked. I love her, Ryan said confidently. I plan to propose in front of Big Ben in England. Mr. Harrison, do I have your permission? Ryan, you don't need my permission. Sarah's capable of making her own decisions, but you have my blessing. The rest of the day went smoothly, and everyone enjoyed themselves. The kids took turns in the hot tub, but none of the adults joined them. Nina mentioned, maybe another time, and I made a mental note to hold her to that. As the evening wrapped up, Sarah and Ryan left to spend some time alone. I helped Nina clean up while Emily and Holly assisted. Jake told Nina it was nice to meet her, wishing her the best before they left. Afterward, Emily pulled me aside. Dad, Nina is great, but she's too young for you. I'm just helping her, Emily, I replied. No, Dad. She loves you. We asked if she was dating anyone, and she said she had a boyfriend. That boyfriend is you. After everyone left, Nina gathered her kids. I had a great time, Tom. I really like your family, she said. Something came over me, and I leaned in and kissed her. It was soft and lingering. When we pulled away, her eyes filled with tears. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. I have to go. She quickly gathered her kids, and they left. I walked up to the car window and apologized. I'm sorry I crossed a line, Nina. Please forgive me. The problem, Tom, is that I've wanted you to do that for a long time, she said before driving away. For days, I didn't hear from her, and I worried about what I had done. On Monday, I went to the restaurant, but she wasn't there. Frank told me she'd had to drop Lily off at daycare and would be back later. I planned to return at lunch, but got caught up covering a shift at work. That evening, my phone rang. It was Nina. Hi, Nina. I'm so sorry about the other day, I began, but she cut me off. Tom, our apartment was broken into, she cried. They took everything, our TV, even the kids' toys. All we have left are our clothes. I don't know what to do. That's awful. Nina, pack your things and the kids. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Everything will be fine. Tom, I didn't know who else to call, she said, her voice trembling. It's okay, Nina. I'm glad you called. Go pack. I'll be right there. I arrived to find Nina and the kids huddled together, clearly shaken. Lily was crying, and I did my best to reassure her. I decided to take them to my house. Nina looked surprised. I thought you were taking us to a motel for the night. No, you're coming home with me. Pack your things and take my car with the kids. I'll drive yours. She didn't ask any questions, just did as I said. I spoke to the police, gave them my number, and explained that Nina and her kids would be staying with me. The officer said they likely wouldn't recover any of the stolen items, and I could see the weight of it all on Nina's face. With the officer's help, we got Nina's car started, and I drove it back to my house. When I arrived, Nina and the kids were standing on the porch. It's open. Why didn't you go inside? I asked. You weren't here, Nina said softly. We didn't want to just walk in. Come on, boys, help me with the bags, I said as we arrived at the house. Ethan and Noah, put your things in the room with the bunk beds. Take Lily's and your mom's stuff to the front bedroom. If you're not sure where something goes, leave it in the living room. I turned to Nina. We need to talk. Tom, we can't live here. What will your kids think? Nina, you need help right now. Let's try this for a few days. You and Lily can share the front bedroom, and the boys will be comfortable upstairs. It'll work out. Tom, the boys have school, and Lily's in kindergarten. I have to work. Living here won't interfere. You might have to leave a bit earlier, but I can help with school runs. Call their schools and give them my name for pickups. We'll manage. Nina's eyes softened. I care about you, Tom. A lot. Your kids know that, and I can't hide it. Sarah, Emily, and Holly know too. I'm not sorry I kissed you. Just thought you should know. I went upstairs to make sure the boys' room was ready while Nina helped them organize their clothes. Lily and I cleared out the dresser in her room. Once everyone was settled, Lily asked if she could put her things away. While Nina unpacked, I took the boys to make dinner, hot dogs and mac and cheese. During the meal, Nina asked about house rules. I explained we'd figure them out gradually. For now, the kids need permission for everything. No going into my room or office without asking, and stay away from the pool. The hot tub's okay with permission, and TV is fine with approval. Keeping their rooms clean is their job. Nina laughed, knowing her boys weren't the tittiest. At least the rules are clear, she said. I smiled at the kids. This is your home now. Have fun, but if you're unsure, ask your mom. Ethan raised his hand, making me chuckle. Uncle Tom, what if we get hungry? Eat, I said. Tomorrow, your mom and I will get snacks. You'll always have food. Remember, your mom is the boss. If she says no, don't ask me. Lily asked shyly, Can we play with the toys in the basement? Of course, I said. We'll talk to Santa, and he'll probably get you some of your own. Lily grinned. Can I go play now? Go ahead, Nina said. Lily ran off, followed by the boys, who yelled, Uncle Tom, can we turn on the TV? Yes, just keep it quiet, I replied. Nina hugged me, tears in her eyes. I don't know what I'd do without you. I squeezed her hands. I'll always be here for you. Now, let's check on the kids. We joined the children in the basement, and it felt like a real family. It reminded me of when Lori and I watched our kids play. As the night wound down, Nina got the children ready for bed. The boys used the upstairs bathroom, and I offered Lily the main one. This is your home now, I reassured her. You can use whatever you need. After tucking in the kids, I went to my office to work. Lily peeked in, dressed in her nightgown. Hi, Lily. Do you need something? I wanted to kiss you goodnight, but Mom said I have to wait until you say it's okay. I smiled. Come on in, sweetie. She climbed into my lap, hugged me, and kissed my cheek. Good night, Uncle Tom. Good night, sweetheart. Where's your mom? She's upstairs arguing with Ethany and Noe. I went up with Lily and found Nina in the middle of a squabble between the boys. But Mom, Ethan always gets the top bunk because he's older, Noah complained. Nina looked at Ethan. Is that what you said? Yeah, but I'm older, so I should get to choose. Ethan, you're 2 years older, so you should be 2 years smarter. Is this really worth fighting over? Ethan sighed. Okay, Noah, you can have the top bunk this month. We'll switch every month. Noah smiled. Thanks, Ethan. You feel good inside, don't you? Nina asked Ethan. Yeah, I guess, he mumbled. Nina kissed the boys goodnight, then tucked in Lily. I need to finish some work myself, she said before heading to her room. I went back to my office and later heard the shower running. When Nina came out, her hair was still wet, and she was in a nightgown and robe. Good night, Tom. Thanks for everything. I smiled. Is there anything you don't look good in? She blushed, wished me good night, and went to bed. Her scent lingered in the air as I sat down to work again, taking a deep breath. The next morning was hectic. Nina asked me to call Frank to let him know she might be late. She needed to update the school and daycare about her address. When I called Frank, he seemed concerned. Tom, are you serious about Nina? Frank asked. She's been through a lot. Don't hurt her. I would never hurt her or the kids, I reassured him. They're safe with me. In the evening, we went back to Nina's old apartment to gather her belongings. There wasn't much, and after returning her keys, she informed the office about moving out due to the break-in. Ethan and Noah rode with me in the truck while Nina and Lily followed in her car. When we got back, Nina got a call from Sarah. After explaining the situation, Sarah asked to speak with me. Dad, are you sure about this? You know she loves you, right? What should I have done, Sarah? Just give her money and tell her to figure it out alone? I care about her. We're adults, and there's nothing wrong with her staying here. Honestly, it feels almost like the good old days. Dad, I get it, but it's a fine line. I like Nina as a sister, but you two need to be careful. Just be clear about what's happening between you. I handed the phone back to Nina, and they talked for another 20 minutes while the boys and I finished unloading the truck. What did she say after I gave the phone back? I asked Nina. Mostly girl stuff, but she's worried about us. What's there to worry about? We're both adults. I'm in my 50s, and I can make my own decisions. Tom, Sarah knows how much I care about you. I told her myself, and now you know too. My feelings are stronger than just gratitude. Okay, let's just take it one day at a time. We'll figure it out, I said. Just then, Ethan and Noah came in. Uncle Tom, can we go in the hot tub? Ethan asked. Only if your mom comes in, I said. You can't go in alone. Come on, Mom, please, the boys begged. All right, boys. Go get your swimsuits. Lily, get yours too, Nina said, turning to me. You set me up, didn't you? She smiled. I grinned. I have no idea what you're talking about. Nina changed into a two-piece swimsuit and smiled as she walked by. Happy now? She asked playfully. You look great in everything. I'm willing to bet you look even better without clothes, I teased. Creep, she laughed, heading to the hot tub with the kids. Later, I handed Nina a drink as she settled into the tub. The water feels amazing. My body needed this, she said, smiling. The kids were fascinated by the bubbles. Thanks, Uncle Tom. This is awesome, Ethan said. I took one last look at Nina, admiring her beauty, before heading inside to finish my paperwork. That night, Lily peeked into my office, waiting for permission to come in. Hi, Lily. What do you need? I asked. I want to kiss you goodnight, but Mom said I have to ask first, she said sweetly. Come on in, sweetheart. She climbed onto my lap, hugged me, and kissed my cheek. Good night, Uncle Tom. See you in the morning. The next day, Nina called, frustrated that her car wouldn't start again. I took the tow truck to the diner to pick her up. When I got there, two guys were trying to offer her help, clearly hitting on her. She turned them down, saying her friend was on the way. When I arrived, they backed off quickly. I'll take it from here, guys, I said, making them nervous. Nina smiled as she climbed into the truck. Thanks for coming, Tom. I told you, I'll always be there for you, I replied. Are you upset that someone else offered to help me? She asked. Yes and no, I said. I want people to see how amazing you are, but it bugs me when they hit on you. I didn't do anything wrong, Tomiel. I know. I was just answering your question, I said, then added. Besides, I don't own you. You told them I was your fiancé. Why? I didn't answer, just drove to the junkyard. Why are we here, Tom? She asked. I'll give you a couple $100 for that old car. Get your personal stuff out, and we'll sort it later. What am I supposed to drive? She asked, surprised. We'll talk later. We need to hurry and pick up the kids. After loading her things, we got $300 for the car and picked up Lily's car seat. Back home, I opened the garage. You can drive my old car, I said. It's got low mileage and was barely used since I got it after Lori's accident. Noah was thrilled when they returned. We got a new car, and it's way nicer than Mom's old one, he shouted. Tom, I'll pay you for the car. How much do you want? Nina asked. Just drive it. I'll keep it in my name and cover the insurance. It'll save you money. What if we don't stay together? What if I move? She asked hesitantly. Are you thinking of moving? I asked, confused. No, I don't know what I'd do if you kicked us out. I couldn't believe we were having our first fight over the car. Nina, I promise you'll always have a car. I'll put it in writing if it helps. I just want you safe. She kissed me, and it felt right. Lily looked over and giggled. Mom just kissed Uncle Tom. It's a thank you kiss for letting us use his car, Nina said, laughing. No, it's your mom's car now, I corrected. She kissed me because it's hers. Nina kissed me again, and we laughed. Okay, everyone, time to get ready for dinner, I said. Should we cook? Or should Mom drive us to McDonald's in her new car? McDonald's, they all shouted. Update. It was a quiet Friday at the store, and Nina was at work when my kids, Jake, Emily, and Sarah, came by. Dad, we need to talk, Jake said. Can we go to your house for a bit? Emily asked. Sure. I'll meet you there in a few minutes, I said. I knew what this was about, and I was ready. When I got home, my kids were already gathered in the living room. Jake spoke first. Dad, this is about Nina and her kids. Seriously, Jake? You drove 2 hours for this? What has Nina done to make you dislike her so much? It's not that we dislike her, Emily interjected. But one minute you're helping her, and the next, she's living here with her kids. Your car is gone too. Did you give it to Nina? As my kids, I'll explain, but I'm disappointed in all of you, I said, trying to stay calm. Dad, I think Nina is using you, Jake continued. You're lonely, and she's fulfilling your emotional needs. You've fallen in love, and now her kids are taken care of. That's crap, Jake, Sarah chimed in. I know Nina better than you. She loves Dad, and he loves her. I'm here to support them. Jake, if you weren't my son, I'd knock you off that chair. What should I have done? Just give her money and tell her to figure it out on her own? I did what I thought was right. Dad, are you saying you haven't slept with her? Emily asked bluntly. No, we haven't, and not that it's your business, but I'm thinking of asking her to marry me. What? Jake exclaimed. You hardly know her. She has 3 kids and more baggage than you realize. You all have your own lives, and I found someone I care about. Why are you so against it? Dad, even if you love her, are you really ready to raise 3 young kids again? Jake asked. They're not even your biological children. I love those kids, Jake. They remind me of when you were little. Lily hugs me and sits on my lap, just like you two did. I can make a difference in their lives. Jake shook his head. You're seeing this too optimistically. Do you really want to spend the next 20 years raising someone else's kids? I turned to Emily. What do you think? Should they be my biological kids for me to love them? Emily hesitated. I love you, and you'll always be my father. But I don't know if I could raise someone else's kids. I understand. But would you still love me if I wasn't your biological father? Of course, you're my dad, she said. But what does this have to do with raising Nina's kids? I sighed, realizing it was time to tell them the truth. Hold on. I need to show you something. I brought out the DNA test results. Your mom and I kept some secrets. It might be a mistake to show you this, but you need to understand. I love Nina's kids and want to be a good father to them. I handed the results to Emily and Jake. What is this? Emily asked, confused. These are your DNA results. They show that you and Jake share the same biological parents, but Sarah's results are different. Only one of her parents is the same as yours. Sarah started crying. Are you saying you're not my biological father? No, Sarah. I'm not Jake's or Emily's biological father either. They were all shocked. What? Jake said. You've always been my dad, Emily cried. Why didn't you tell us before? You are my children, regardless of biology, I said firmly. It's love that makes a family, not just blood. Jake asked, are you going to tell us about our biological father? I plan to, but first, I want you to know that I've always loved you as my own. Jack Miller was your biological father, Jake. He was also Emily's. Your mother and I were married, and we were very happy until she confessed that Jack was your real father. I was devastated, but I couldn't walk away from you both. We stayed together, and then Sarah was born. She was definitely mine. Jake looked at me, his voice shaking. Dad, why did you take the kidney test if you knew you weren't my biological father? I hoped and prayed I was a match for you. You were my son, and I would have given you my kidney in a heartbeat. Did you know all this before Jake went to the hospital? Emily asked. Yes. Your mom had already told me the truth, so there were no surprises. I knew the results when I took the test. Sarah wiped her tears. So, you've always known? And you still raised us like your own? Yes, because I love you, I said. Nothing changes that. Jake, who had been quiet for a while, finally spoke up. I'm sorry, Dad. I was thinking more about us than about you and Nina. I just want you to be happy. Jake, I understand. I'm sure some of this is about inheritance. Don't worry. You'll all be treated fairly in my will. But I'm disappointed that you haven't shown more compassion for Nina and her kids. Emily hugged me tightly. I don't care what the test says. You'll always be my dad. I hugged her back and was about to embrace Sarah when Nina pulled up outside. Well, it looks like we're all going out to dinner, unless you want to tell Nina why you're really here, I said with a smile. Nina walked in and greeted everyone. Hi, what brings you all here? Sarah quickly thought of a cover. It's my last day off before I head back, so we decided to go out for dinner. Great, Nina smiled. Let me change out of my uniform, and we'll go. As she left the room, I turned to my kids and said, You're welcome to talk to Nina whenever you're ready, but just know, I'm happy, and that's what matters. Lily hugged Jake and said, Hi, Jake, I like you. Jake looked at me, finally understanding what I meant about these kids becoming part of our lives. Ethan then asked Emily, Did you bring your kids so we can play? We're learning to share our toys better. No, they're home, Emily replied. But maybe you can visit after Christmas. Can I, Uncle Tom? I've never been to their house, Ethan asked. We'll see, Ethan. There's still a couple of weeks before then, I said with a smile. Sarah was chatting with Noah when he blurted out, We bought a new car, and Mom kissed Uncle Tom. Everyone turned to look at me, but Nina saved the moment. Yes, Ethan, I kissed him, twice, for letting us use the car. We're using it to go to dinner now. Come on, Kids, back in the car. Uncle Tom will drive, so you all sit in the back. After dinner, Jake pulled me aside. I'm sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have questioned you. It's okay to wonder, Jake. But next time, let's talk it through instead of assuming the worst. Jake smiled, and we shared a moment of understanding. Later, I had a similar conversation with Emily. I wanted my kids to know I was always there for them, no matter what. The next day, Sarah asked if I could babysit while she went shopping with Nina. I agreed and gave them some money for their trip. I also wanted to buy bikes for Nina's kids, knowing they'd be safe to ride them in our neighborhood. Nina, as usual, was too proud to ask for more money, happy to be able to provide for the kids on her own after selling her old car. I borrowed Nina's car and took the kids Christmas shopping. Remember, I told them, we're shopping for your mom. Each of you has $20 to spend on her. At first, they looked at expensive items, so I took them to a kid-friendly store. The clerk helped guide them to gifts within their budget. Ethan found a unicorn that cost $25. I'll give you $5 if you wash my truck, I said. Ethan was thrilled and immediately bought the unicorn. Noah picked out DVDs, Titanic and Shrek, and I helped him cover the extra cost. Lily struggled to find the perfect gift. None of these smell like Mom, she whispered. I tipped off the saleswoman, who suggested White Diamond's perfume. Lily smiled when she heard it cost exactly $20. The saleswoman pretended it was a special price, and Lily proudly bought it. After shopping, the kids hid their gifts in my office and put a Christmas card on Sarah's bed, thanking her for the new luggage. When Sarah got home and saw it, she was overjoyed. The weeks leading up to Christmas flew by with work, school activities, and preparing for the holiday. We decorated a tree for the first time in 3 years, bringing back the warmth and joy I had missed. Sarah left for England, and we planned to visit Emily and Jake the day after Christmas. On Christmas morning, the kids were ecstatic. They opened presents and stockings with pure delight. Nina was touched by the thoughtful gifts from her kids, movies from Noah, a unicorn from Ethan, and perfume from Lily. Mommy, that was the last bottle, and I just had enough money, Lily proudly said. Nina smiled, noticing the $50 price tag but saying nothing. I had hidden bikes for the kids around the house, and their excitement was contagious. Lily and Noah got bikes with training wheels, but Noah was determined to ride without them, just like Ethan. As the kids played, I handed Nina a large box. Inside were hot nightgowns. Laughing, she asked, "What made you buy this?" "This comes with it," I said, handing her a small package. When she opened it and saw the engagement ring, tears filled her eyes. "Why, Tom? Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because I love you, and I want you and the kids to be with me always." "So, is the answer yes?" Her answer stunned me. "Tom, the answer is no. But please hear me out. I love you, but we've only known each other a few months. After the holidays, things will go back to normal. I have a proposition." "Okay, I'm listening," I replied, my heart pounding. "I want us to live as a family, but I want to rent our rooms and give you $200 a week. Let's take 6 months to see if this is right. If it's not working, we can make other arrangements. I need you to be sure about us." "All I'm asking for is time," Nina said as she handed back the ring and kissed me. She hinted at keeping the nightgown, suggesting we take things slowly and make sure marriage was truly what we both wanted. I could live with that, hoping it would bring us closer. The kids played with their toys all day. Despite the cold, they insisted on riding their new bikes, so Nina and I bundled up and watched them. In the afternoon, Sarah called from England to announce her engagement. We congratulated her, wished her a Merry Christmas, and spent the evening watching A Christmas Story together. The kids thanked me for the best Christmas ever before heading to bed. Later, I could smell Nina's perfume from down the hall as she appeared at my door in her new nightgown. "Tom, I love you," she said softly, "but we need to wait before getting married. Can we start tonight, though? Will you make love to me?" She smiled, and we spent an unforgettable night together. In the morning, I found her asleep with Lily, and I prepared breakfast before we headed to Emily's for Christmas dinner. Jake and his family were there too, and they included Nina and her kids in the gift exchange, making me feel even more blessed. Later, Jake pulled me aside. "Dad, did you propose to Nina?" "I did, but she turned me down. She thinks it's too soon. I can't believe that. She loves you, Dad. She just wants to be sure, and I respect that, I explained. We're giving it time. Life carried on, and we became more of a family. Nina and I shared cooking duties, managing expenses through a joint account, discussing major purchases together. We lived like a married couple in all but name, and our love deepened. Sarah noticed our closeness, but she never said much. When her wedding neared, she asked Nina to be her maid of honor, which brought Nina to tears of joy. As Sarah's wedding day approached, I found myself reflecting on my relationship with Nina. I adored her kids, and they adored me. On the day of the wedding, I had a surprise planned for her, as we hadn't talked about marriage since Christmas. Dressed in my tuxedo, I walked Sarah down the aisle, tears of joy in both of our eyes. Lily's excited exclamation of, "Aunt Sarah looks like a princess," drew smiles and laughter from the guests. As I took my seat, I felt immense gratitude for my family, my daughters, son-in-law, Nina, and all the kids. At the reception, Nina joined me for the first dance. "I love you, Nina," I whispered. "I love you too, Tom. Are you really serious about this?" "I mean it," I said, and she kissed me, publicly showing her love for the first time. Later, it was time for the bouquet toss. Jake urged Nina to join, since she was still technically single. Sarah threw the bouquet, and it landed perfectly in Nina's hands. Then came the garter toss, and Ryan handed it to me, saying, "This belongs to my father-in-law." Nina sat down, and I, on one knee, slid the garter up her leg. As I reached her hip, I pulled a wedding ring from my pocket. "Nina," I said, still on one knee, "after 6 more months of being surrounded by family and love, will you marry me?" The room fell silent, and everyone waited. Lily stepped forward and, seeing her tearful mother, urged, "Say yes, Mommy." Nina, with tears in her eyes, replied, "Tom, I love you with all my heart. Yes, I'll marry you." Cheers erupted from the crowd. Sarah ran over, hugging Nina as they both cried. There wasn't a dry eye in the room, including mine, as I kissed my bride-to-be. Now happily married, Nina left her job at Frank's Diner to help run the gas station with me. She's a natural at it, making the workplace feel more like a family. We're even considering adoption, a decision we're taking our time with. Lily already calls me Daddy, while the boys sometimes switch between Daddy and Uncle Tom, probably to confuse their friends. Looking back on life, I often wonder how things would have turned out if I'd known about Jack Miller earlier, or if Lori's accident hadn't happened. Life is fragile, and the weight of past mistakes sometimes haunts me. But snuggled on the couch with my new wife, watching our blended family play on the floor, I know we've built something beautiful. Watching Titanic together, one of Noah's Christmas gifts, has become our new family tradition, except for Lily, who always dozes off halfway through.